another great Sunday night. My goodness, ain't God good? God always good, and not just because it's a Sunday. God is good every day. Period. Every day. He good every day. Why don't you get your praise on right where you're at? This is Resonate Sound. Oh my goodness, I'm telling you, it's awesome. So awesome. Welcome to the station and welcome to Discipleship Television. I'm Chris Heineken, your host, and let's just say if you are watching us online, especially on YouTube, why don't you like this video? Why don't you subscribe to the YouTube channel? And why don't you ring the bell, ding ding ding, that way you won't miss any episode. Especially you can't miss tonight's episode. Tonight's episode is really, really good. And you know, people do the typical, when you grow up, you get your, take your driver's test, get your driver's permit, and then you take a driver's test and you get your license. I know various states differ. Well, and after you get your license and then you get your first vehicle, you're all thrilled and excited. And then you think you know where you want to go when you travel, but you end up traveling or taking a detour somewhere and you get lost. And you end up on the wrong path. What happens? Do we retrace the steps that we started from? Or do we ask for directions? Kind of crazy, isn't it? And we'll talk more about it later on tonight before we go off the air. My goodness. How often do we, instead of staying straight on that road, how do we kind of split decisions? We do that a lot in our lives. And sometimes, well, I'm not going to say sometimes, I'm going to say all the time. That could be very bad for us. Tonight on this great Sunday night of Resonate Sound, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. We're going to go deep into that one. Here is our Associate Pastor Pam Hovis. Tonight, we deal with the dangers of traveling on the wrong road. Pam Hovis, it's all yours. You're standing by at Resonate Church. We're going to take it to you. Let's go resonate.
So, I'm flying. And Mom's laughing, and I said, Mom, this ain't the right road. So she writes, we didn't have cell phones back then. That's how long ago it was. Not all of us. And so I made a sign, and it said, put it in the window because the church van followed me. That's bad enough right there. And so we put a sign in the window, and it said, are we going the right way? And I got thumbs up from everybody on the bus. And so, man, I was just flying. Needless to say, I'm headed towards Fort Smith. They veered off. They went straight and headed towards Hot Springs or vice versa, whichever way it was. They weren't on the same road as I was. I did not know that. I followed a car that looked just like Letitia's car, but it wasn't Letitia's car. And so I thought, Lord, what am I going to do? And I got past all these towns that I had heard of. I always wondered where they were at. And because I went to Talent Expo and they'd name off these places, and I thought, oh, where's that at? Now I know because I went flying right past all of them. And we're going down the 4-lane, and 70 miles an hour, 75 miles an hour. I'm behind, so it's probably faster than that. Churchman's trying to keep up with me, and I can't find a convenience store. Not one. Not one gas station, nothing, no place to stop. And we get down the road about another 10 miles, and there's a liquor store. Now, I mean a real, true liquor store, not like back then. it wasn't like every convenience store had liquor. It was a liquor store. Okay, so I pulled in and, come to a halt, and I said, you ladies just stay right here, and I will go in, and I'll get directions to get us to Hot Springs from here. I didn't know where I was at, but I was going to do that. And so I'm in there talking to these 3 young men, and I'm explaining, we're trying to get to Hot Springs. We're late for a ladies' retreat. Can you tell me how to get there? He said, you're on the wrong road. I said, I know I'm on the wrong road, but how can I get to where I'm going? And he said, well, ma'am, and about that time, he goes, all these little Pentecostal women, and I don't mean like us, I mean the ones with the dresses down to here and their bun on top of their head. You know what I mean, because that's what they used to do. And I was the oddball out because I'm the young one, but they went with me everywhere I wanted to go. And so here comes Sister Tyler. Here comes Sister Dearden. Here comes my mama in a liquor store. I am not a happy person because my mama is in a liquor store. I didn't even know my mama knew where a liquor store was. And I'm not kidding. And so next thing I know, the church bus is empty. And they're all saying, hey, Sonny, do you have a bathroom? And his mouth is open like, I said, if you'll just give me directions, I'll get him out of here. And so he's giving me directions, and they're walking, and there's a line of like 15 women waiting for the bathroom. So it wasn't very fast, if you know what I mean. And so in the meantime, Sister Dearden, I'm going to say it, she was a little prissy woman, little small woman, dainty little woman, and she's walking around looking at the bottles. And she said, oh, look at this bottle, isn't it pretty? And I said, put that bottle down, we ain't buying it. She said, but it's a pretty bottle. And it was a pretty bottle. But I finally wrangled them all up, and I got them back into the car, and I got the directions, which meant I was way off course, and I was embarrassed because I had taken the wrong road, first of all. I was ashamed of where I had to stop to get help because to me, these were my elders. I'm their women's leader, and I just took them to the liquor store. And I'm ashamed. I really am, because I'm heartbroken because I didn't ever want to see Sister Tyler in a liquor store. I didn't want her to tell anybody that I took her to the liquor store. And so, I'm just heartbroken, but you know what? They were amazed by the beautiful bottles. And they were laughing, and they were having fun. But in my heart, I thought I had failed them. And even though I knew the way, I followed the wrong card. I didn't follow what I knew to be right and get myself there because I knew how to get there. I was distracted by what was going on in the back seat, and I took my eyes off the car that I was following, which by that time was a car or two ahead of me, and I followed the car that looked like Latisse. And I ended up somewhere that I did not need to be or that I wanted to be. And that was what was worse to me, was that I took the ladies that I admired to the same place. Now, no one was hurt. They all laughed about it. They told stories about it over and over again. They told everybody, smiling the whole time. Sister Pam took us to get spirits before we got to the conference. They were having a ball with it. I'm brokenhearted on the inside because to me, they had a fun time, but I still had to get them there. And I'd never been on any of the roads these guys were telling me how to get. And so I ended up having to go around Petit Mountain. And so y'all know that's a curvy road. And I'm from Missouri, so that didn't bother me. And so I'm flying 60, 70 miles an hour, trying to get us to Hot Springs around them curves. And then I lost the van. And so I slowed down. We have got to find a place to stop. You're making me sick. So the old girls were fine in my car, but the young girls had to make a pit stop because they were car sick because I'm driving like a crazy woman. But you know what? I got them to the service. We didn't get to go to the motel. We didn't get to change, but we made it just in time for the service. And when I was thinking about this the other day, the Lord reminded me of this, I realized that we have all been given instructions on how to follow God. We have all heard on sermons on keeping our eyes on Him and seeking Him for guidance, even if it seems like sometimes we grow numb and we ignore some of the warning signs that He's placed right in front of us. And we ignore those little things that keep us from staying on the right road. Oh, that's not going to hurt. Or we get sidetracked by friends and we let things slide that we know go against the will of God. And so, and how the Lord brought this to me, I mean, don't ask me. He does funny things with me. I thought Brian was weird, but sometimes he really messes with me. And I said, Lord, I don't want to tell everybody. I am ashamed of that. It's been 20-some years now, and I would kind of like for that to fade away. Some of the old saints are gone, and I was hoping it died with them. And you know, it didn't, because I brought it back up. And he said, but you learned something from that. And so I want to read to you Proverbs 4, verses 25 through 27, and it says, let thine eyes look right on, and let thine eyelids look straight before thee. Ponder the path of thy feet, and let all thy ways be established. And let's do 27, I forgot. Turn not to the right hand or to the left, and remove thy foot from evil. Now, we wasn't doing any evil, but the Lord began to deal with me about that, about how I had to keep my eyes on Him, and I had to keep my foot upon the path. And I thought, Lord, that, you know, okay, I get it. I went through that just so I could stand up here and humiliate myself. But He said, you're not humiliating yourself. You need to stop and think about it. How many times have you and I took our eye off the path that God has for us because of something we wanted more than what God wanted for us? How many times have we looked to the right and the left and thought we weren't worthy because Sally Joe could do it better? How many times have we gone through a hard spot and we just couldn't see how the Lord was going to work it out, but He always worked it out? But when we take advantage of the fact that we know who Jesus is, and we forget to call upon Him, we forget to seek Him and ask for Him, and we're not sure about where we're putting our next foot down, that's when we have a problem. Now, our story turned out great, but there's a lot of people with stories who have taken their wrong path, or they've taken their eyes off the path that God has before them that didn't end so great. So if I can suffer through telling you how humiliated I was by taking my dear saints to a liquor store, it'll be worth every bit of it if I can tell you you need to be sure you're on the right path. You need to be sure you're doing what God called you to do. You need to be seeking Him and running with Him and know that your foot is stable on the path that He has for you. You know, we must keep our eyes up on the Lord, and we must know His will for our life. We can't, as the old saying goes, fly by the seat of our pants. We have to ask Him for help and guidance. We must prepare ourselves for our walk with Him, and we must make preparation for our journey so that we do not lose our way. I thought about this, and y'all have all seen Home Alone, the second one. So don't ask me why it reminded me of this, but you know, they were chasing each other through the airport because once again, they overslept and they're trying to catch a plane in Home Alone. And the little one, what's his name? Kevin, he is, of course, distracted by everything else except following them to the airplane. And so he sees his dad up there, but he's more worried about getting the batteries in this little recording thing that he had, whatever it's called. And so he takes just a moment, and he stops and puts the batteries in, and he looks up, and there's a guy in a coat just like his dad. He's got hair just like his dad, and he follows him to the airplane. He knew something was wrong as soon as he got on the airplane because he didn't look around seeing if his mean brother or anybody else. But he sat down and didn't pay any attention to that. And he ended up in New York, and the family ended up in Florida. You say, why would you tell that story? Because sometimes you and I get distracted by the littlest of things, and we take our eye off of our Father. We can be distracted by somebody saying something that didn't hit us just right. We can get distracted by the fact that we're having church and she's preaching too long. And so you miss your blessing because you're in a hurry to get out of the service. Or you're just too lazy to get up and study and you wonder why God can't help you. Well, you've not got your eyes on the right one. And sometimes the enemy puts somebody in your life that you think is just so great, and you get to watching them instead of watching what God has for you. How many times has that happened? Where we're so worried about what so-and-so is. You know, my dad told me one time, the enemy has a counterfeit for everything that God has. And it will run parallel with everything that God has. And if you're not studied up, you'll follow the wrong one. If you're not paying attention, you'll follow the wrong road. You'll veer to the right when you should have hung to the left. Or instead of going straight, you'll just stop at a liquor store where you don't even need to be. It's the truth. Even though I knew how to get to Hot Springs, I was relying on somebody else to get me there. And I didn't pay attention and go with what I knew. Sometimes, like I said, we're distracted by the things in our life. We're distracted by our circumstances. We're distracted by our choices. We're distracted by our inability or willingness to be led by someone. We think we know it all, and therefore nobody can tell me anything. We're not easily to be taught. We worry about our opinions, our wants, and our desires, or we even want it to be so easy that we don't have to put any effort into it. But if you're going to serve God, it requires some effort on your part. That means you can't stay home every other Sunday and think that's all right with God and expect your walk to be great. That means on Wednesday nights, even though we don't have a huge crowd, you're still faithful because you love God. That means when your kid's fixing to go to sleep, you take the time to pray with him instead of hurrying him to bed so you can watch a movie you don't need to watch. That means you have to make a determination. If I had followed what I knew, instead of trying to follow the car in front of me, I would have got to Hot Springs. But I got distracted by some little old ladies telling a funny story. And do I wish I had them here to tell me stories again? Yes. But did I learn my lesson? You bet I did. I decided I'm just going my own way. I'll follow you. If you run off and leave me, I'll get there on my own. 2 Timothy says this in 2:15. It says, study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. You say, what does that have to do with this? If you want to follow God, you got to know his word. And you have to seek him so that you can rightly divide it, so that those that are around you won't think you're wishy-washy, won't think you know everything, but that you're leaning on God. You have to study to know. I didn't need a map to get to Hot Springs. I just needed to use the good sense God gave me to get there. But instead, I was listening to ladies tell a story, and I followed the car in front of me that led me down the wrong road. This story also got me to thinking about how easy it is to take our eyes off the path that God has for us, to follow something similar but untrue. We must study so that we do not follow a path that seems right, but that we follow a path we know is right. We must learn to follow direction and instruction, and we must keep our eyes on God. Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path. I should have been praying while I was in that car, Lord, help me get to Hot Springs. But I wasn't, and I've made you laugh tonight, and I intended to. But how many times have we gone the wrong path because we didn't trust in the Lord with all of our heart? We looked at our circumstances and thought, oh my Lord, this is the worst thing I've ever gone through. How am I ever going to make it? That's not putting everything in God's hands. That's complaining about it, and that's unfaithfulness. Because if you really believe in him, you have faith in him that he's going to bring you through. Is it always going to be easy? No. Is it always going to be an easy choice? No. But if you're determined to serve God, it's not a hard choice at all. You just either you're going to serve him or you're not. You can't be, the Bible says you cannot be lukewarm. He will spew you out of his mouth. That means you're either on fire for God all the time or you're serving the devil. Let's don't sugarcoat it. Too many people are going to hell because it's sugarcoated. You either love the Lord or you don't love Him. You say, well, I ain't got time. Well, you've got time for everything else you want to do. I got time to go to the ball game. I got time to go to Walmart. I got time to go to Branson. But, oh, nope, can't make it on Sunday morning. That's too early. I can get to work at 6 o'clock in the morning, but I can't be in church at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm just saying, Wednesday night, 6:30, I don't know if I can make that. I'm just saying, when I was the women's leader and we had our rallies and I had to go lead the service, I would work till 5 o'clock and drive from work there. I would change on my way out so I could get there and be on time. Not because I was great, but my heart belonged to God and I wanted to be there. And I felt like because I was in leadership, I couldn't just go in my blue jeans and my t-shirt. I had to dress appropriately to get behind the desk of God. Now, I'm not telling you what to wear, but if I could do that, you can make it. Don't tell me you can't come if I can. It's just you don't want to. You haven't made up your mind that the path you walk for God is more important than anything. Now, I haven't lost my husband because of church. I pray for him every day. But I am faithful to God because He knows I love God. And He's watching me. And so if I'm dragging around griping because I got to be at church, what am I saying to my husband? I'm saying that the path I'm walking, I may have made a wrong turn. Because I want him to know who Jesus is. So we make excuses. And we make our own understanding. It'll be all right, God will understand. You know, He will. Because He's a loving God. But He's also a God who will be angry. And when it comes time to stand before Him and you're going to have to explain, what are you going to say to Him? I took the wrong road, never sought the path to get back. I also learned this, that even though I took these women someplace that I was ashamed of, and I had made a mistake and taken the wrong path, I'd taken my eyes off the lead car and followed the wrong one, I realized that we all make mistakes. We lose our way. Sometimes, but sometimes we do lose our way. We can get our feelings hurt. We can just get discouraged. We can just lose interest. But it's not that hard to find your way back on the right path if you're willing to seek direction. It's not. It's not hard to find your way back to Jesus if you've left Him sitting on the side of the road. It's not that hard because the Bible says He knows what we have need of before we ask. He knows you've taken the wrong turn. He knows that you're lost. He knows that you're disgusted, I'll just say it. He knows that you're disappointed. He knows that you're angry. But He also knows that you can turn those things into things to keep you out of church. Or you can turn to Him and turn them things into something and let God take care of it. Luke 11:9-10 says this. And I say unto you, ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be open unto you. For everyone that seeketh, receiveth. And he that seeketh, findeth. And to him that knocketh, it shall be open. So you have no excuse to say, I'm on the wrong path, and I just don't know my way back. When all you have to do is call up on His name. I had to stop and get help someplace that I did not want to stop and get help for, but I knew I needed help to get somewhere. And they had a good laugh about it, the little old women, and I'm sure when we left, we were the talk of the liquor store. But I know this, there's been many times I've taken a wrong path. There's been many times that I have fallen short, but I have found that every time I called upon the name of Jesus, He came back to me. He didn't leave me sitting there to drown in my mistake. He was just waiting for me to ask for help. I don't know about you, but my husband's stubborn, and sometimes when he's doing things, now he's good at engines and stuff, but sometimes when he puts things together, he doesn't read the directions. I read the directions, and then I still have to figure it out. But sometimes he's just like, I don't need them. And so he'd be trying to put it together, and there's 50 pieces left in the floor. When we were young, that's how he was. He is not that way anymore, I will say. He's very good. But isn't it funny how sometimes we need directions, and we've got all these pieces on us that are broken and falling off, and we just don't know what to do with all of those pieces. And the whole time, we have somebody who knows the directions and can put every piece back in its right place. We just chose the wrong path and didn't seek him for guidance. You know, we eventually made it to Hot Springs, like I said, and even though the ladies had a good laugh about it and were no worse for the wear, I was still ashamed. I felt like I had shamed myself, and I shamed them. I mean, come on, I took my mama to a liquor store. And the ladies who encouraged me to step out and preach, and the ones who had never gone to ladies' retreats would go because I asked them to go. You know, and I felt like I had really let them down. But then the Lord reminded me this, that along our way we may falter, we may stumble, we may end up way off course, but we have to remember this, Romans 3:23, which says, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And we cannot dwell on our past. We have to learn from our mistakes. I learned my lesson. I know how to get where I'm going now. Sometimes I take the scenic route, but I always show up. But I should have been paying closer attention. But out of it, I got to preach a sermon on how crazy I am sometimes. But we have to learn from the things we've gone through so that we don't keep making those same mistakes. Now, we could go there now, and I could tell you where I messed up. Everybody knows in Little Rock, there's the big United Pentecost Church, the big, beautiful, mansion-looking one. I was supposed to veer left right after that church, and I went straight. So now, I look for that church. I don't have to go to Hot Springs anymore since they moved up everything to Valonia, but that's how I know where I'm going. When I get to that church, I'm hooking a left. And the ladies thought that was so funny. But what if I let that eat at me to the point that I quit being the ladies' leader? What did that say to the carload of young women who were in the church bus who had never been before? What did that say to those old women who were willing to back me, and I'm just going for you? If I'd have said, you know, I messed up and I just can't do it anymore. I shouldn't have took you all there. I got lost. I'm sorry, but I'm resigning. Where would that put me? What witness would I have? What would those ladies think of me? Well, I can tell you, Sister Tyler would have told me straight away that I was being stupid, and she would have been right. We've all made mistakes. We've all veered off the road and took the wrong road. We made U-turns when God told us to go straight. We took a detour that cost us, you know, lots of extra mileage and lots of extra heartache and stuff, when if we'd have just followed the path God set before us, we wouldn't have gone through any of it. Philippians 3:13 and 14 said this, and this is Paul talking. It says, brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind me, and reaching forth unto those things which are before. I could have allowed that to destroy me. They didn't have a clue how I felt in my heart that I had shamed them, how I had let them down. I'm telling you, they didn't care. They thought it was funny. But every time I heard a joke about it, my heart hurt. Every time I listened to it, for the longest time, or they'd say, where are you going to take us this time? Where are we going? I'm not taking you to the liquor store. But had I let that fester in me to the point that it killed my ministry, if I kept looking back at that all the time and never felt worthy, could I have ever taken the kids for Talent Expo, all the places we went? No, because I'd have been afraid I would have taken the wrong road. And sometimes we take the wrong road. And David says, I like to take the scenic view sometimes. And I do, not intentionally sometimes, especially if I don't know exactly where I'm going. But I take them and I always end up where I'm going. Sometimes we have to realize that the path that we're on, there are going to be things that don't happen the way we want them to. And there's going to be things that in our past that we had to work our way through, and every bit of it is worth you working your way through if it can make you what God wants you to be. Don't look at it as though it's a chain around your neck and you're going down and you're not going to make it. Look at it as though, hey, God, there's something in there that I can use to glorify you. I would have never told anybody that story. We've laughed about it at my house before. And, of course, like I said, Sister Tyler, some of them wouldn't let me live it down for a while. But I would do it all over again. Because without that, I couldn't have preached this sermon. Without that, I couldn't have told you that sometimes we take the wrong road. But we don't have to stay on the wrong road. We don't have to give up everything because we made a mistake. We don't have to constantly be looking over our shoulder to see if it's coming back to haunt us. Because once the Lord forgives us for it, it's forgiven and forgotten. Unless you keep bringing it up. Now, don't get me wrong. There's going to be somebody who sees this is going to say, I remember when you took us to the liquor store. Yes, I did. And there's going to be somebody from your past who's going to say, I know what you used to be. But you can look them in the eye and say, I am not who I was. I am who God intended me to be. It doesn't matter, because God will take the bad in our past to use to glorify Him and make our present and our future. So just look at it as though I took a detour, but then I turned around and got on the right road. I made a mistake, but I got myself up and I turned around and went the way I was supposed to go all along. There's no shame in that. There was no reason for me to be ashamed and discouraged that I had let those ladies down, because they never one time thought that I did. They didn't. They went with me the very next time. But I had to handle it myself and figure out why I took the wrong road and determine in my mind that I wouldn't take the wrong road ever again. Because I'm not somebody who can follow directions and say, now you go north on 30, if there is a 30, and then you turn right on 60, and then you go 15 miles. I can't do that because I don't know which way's north. My husband gets so mad at me. I'm the one who says, go down here by the red house, take a right, go till you come to the Sonic and make a left, and I'm the third house on the right. You see, it's all in how you present it. I wasn't lost. I was on a journey, and I got to go on a journey with a bunch of great women. But it taught me a lesson about how God can use even the silliest things to make someone in the audience understand that we all make mistakes, but we can always talk to God and find Him, and He will always be there to listen to us. And then we can always pick ourselves up and turn the right direction. See, that's a simple sermon, and it wouldn't have been 2 whole minutes if I'd have just said it that way. But you're always going to remember that Sister Pam took some elderly women to the liquor store because she took the wrong road, took her eyes off the right path, and followed something similar, but not what God intended for me to follow. And if you all were honest, y'all have done the same thing. Maybe not took some elderly women to the liquor store, but y'all have followed something because you thought it was right, but you never sought God about it. You've all made mistakes and allowed things to hinder your how do I want to say it? Hinder your progression because of stupid little things that looking back on now you think, why did I even let that bother me? But the difference is, quit looking over your back about the wrong road you took and start looking forward to God and asking Him for those things that you need, for the direction that you need, for the healing that you need, for the life-changing event that you need that only He can give you. So don't take the wrong road. And if you do take the road, it's not the end of the world. You can still turn around and follow God. You can still stop and ask God for direction. You can still say, hey, what? My dad used to say it so simple, and I've told this to a lot of kids. So what? You made a mistake. It don't matter. What matters is you know you made a mistake. Now let's get on living for God.
Hi everyone, I'm Cornbread Heineken, the Dean of Arkansas Sportscasters and host of Resonate Cell. I want to say a special thank you for resonating to amplify Jesus with us here today. No matter where you are, if you're joining us live here at Resonate Church, whether you're joining us nationwide courtesy of your local syndicated television stations across the country, or if you're joining us internationally and globally courtesy of our YouTube simulcast. Thanks so much for resonating Jesus with us. Now, you're asking and you're saying, Cornbread, resonate. You guys always bless us, but we want to turn around and bless you through the act of worship called giving. How do we do it? Yes, we have multiple ways, 4 of them in particular, on which you can resonate your giving. Check it out. Number 1, join us live and in person here at Resonate Church at our brand new location, 3702 East Highland Drive. It is directly across the street from All-Star Music in Jonesboro, Arkansas. Sundays, 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Wednesday nights at 6:30, and we do keep in mind, things scheduled subject to change. Option number 2, online. That's a little tidely thing right there. Use the term Resonate Church AR. That's right, everything right there on your screen. Resonate Church AR if you want to resonate your giving online. Just follow the directions and you can do that safely and securely. Option 3, your cell phone. Look, we all got one. Might as well use it, shall we? Want to resonate your giving using your cell phone? All you gotta do, text the word give to that number right there on your screen. Safe, fast, secure, easy, simple to do. Option 4, mailing. If you want to mail your contributions to us, courtesy of a check or money order, please make all checks and money orders payable to Resonate Church and send it to the address on your screen. Once again, you want to resonate your giving courtesy of a mailing option. Send your check or money order. Make all checks and money orders payable to Resonate Church and send it to that address on your screen. And those are the ways you can resonate your giving. And remember, show love, give peace, and say Jesus. That's good. That's very good, Pam. It's a hilarious story, though. But it made a great point, though. Thank you. I know we cracked up when we laughed at that story that Pam told just about a little church trip. It was hilarious. I thought it was hilarious. But, if you really think about it, that's been our story a lot of times, majority of our life. We think we're traveling down the right road. We think we're traveling down the right path, and all of a sudden, we get lost where we are, or we get distracted. And then it takes us down the wrong road. It takes us down the wrong path. In one of the all-time classic movies that's quote-unquote seen as sure of a lot of controversy over the years since the movie came out. And we're talking about the legendary movie called The Wizard of Oz. And after, of course, it was black and white and all that, and right when it landed in color. And they wanted to, think about it. Dorothy met 3 other friends. Dorothy and Toto, her dog, met 3 other friends. Met the Scarecrow, and met the Lion, met the Tin Man, of course. And what was the one big time goal of each and every one of them? Tin Man wanted a heart, Scarecrow wanted a brain, Lion wanted courage, and Dorothy wanted to get back home to Kansas. What was the way to get there? Going to see the wizard. How would they go about going to see the wizard? follow the yellow brick road. Trust me, it's an all-time classic movie. It ties into tonight. Because if you really pay attention to everything that Pam said, it not just a funny story, but everything in depth and detail to what she said tonight. That and the Wizard of Oz go hand in hand together. Even from a spiritual perspective. Because if you notice, if you watch that movie, or go back and watch that movie after we go off the air, that is, you kind of notice that they get distracted along the way. And they've had to conquer a lot of things just to get to the wizard. Even on that road. Isn't that kind of like us sometimes? We're following that path of God. But we get distracted. But that's why God says He goes before us, learning knocking down any and everything that could literally distract us. Or things that could take us off the path. That's why He says don't look to the right but to the left. Don't even look behind. You look behind, you give the enemy a chance to literally catch you right there. I look behind when you can look forward. Why look to the right or to the left when you can look straight forward? When you can go forward? Yes, our bodies can turn that way. But honestly, if you look at really the creation, or how God created us, our eyes are made to go forward, not to look back. Our feet, everything is made for forward purposes. That's why we have forward joints, not backwards. See the difference? What path are you on? This is not a quote-unquote survey question, but it's something that you can ask yourself in your everyday life. What path are you on? Are you on the path of freedom? Kind of like Dorothy, Scarecrow, Tin Man, Lion? On the path of going to God and getting everything that you need? Or are you distracted by any and everything that comes your way? Very good thing to think about. What path are you on? Hopefully it's the right path. God, thank you so much for resonating your sound to us. Thank you at home for watching. Oh my goodness, ain't no service like a live wrestling service. A live wrestling service will stop. I'm telling you, it's a wonderful experience, and we encourage you to come resonate Jesus with us at Resonate Church. All the info and everything right there on your screen. Also, multiple ways you can resonate your giving. The other options at our website, resonatechurchar.org. Plus, all the news, all the pictures, all the news, all the scoops, all the views, all the info, so much more is facebook.com/ResonateAR. And if you're joining us on this YouTube podcast, just like this video, just subscribe to our YouTube channel and ring the bell, ding ding, that way you won't miss an episode. And we got another good one for you coming this Thursday night. We encourage you to join us for our crew. We thank you. So love, if you know it, resonate you. See you Thursday night in prime time, 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and 9 p.m. Eastern and Pacific on this station. Good night, Canada. Good night, everyone. See you Thursday in prime time.